What is happening, you guys? Welcome back to Let's Go Win podcast. We are in for an absolute treat today. We're going to talk about being discovered, how to be more discoverable. We're going to talk about sustaining your brand, how to grow your authority quickly. And we have an absolute expert today. Vinnie Potestivo is an Emmy Award-winning media advisor who helps clients leverage their media exposure. He is the editor-in-chief of I Have a Podcast and is responsible for discovering and amplifying the voice of independent podcasters worldwide. As a network executive at MTV Networks from 98 to 2007, he discovered talent and developed ways to support their goals, pioneering the way brands and business owners could contribute to their public narrative by making them stars and producers of their own television series. Vinny, that had to be exciting as can be, brother. That is a wild time, man.
I'll tell you what, it was an easy phone call to make. You know, when you have access, I was lucky to work at MTV. I had access to a publishing schedule. I knew what the windows were. Blessed to be the guy that got to call people and say, hey, you know, you're a dancer. What if you're a dancer, Wade? What if we had the Wade Robson Dance Project on MTV? What would that look like? Come pitch it to us. That's the show we should be doing. And what a cool time to be working with the biggest storytellers in our industry that had to go through TV in the 90s to get their stories heard on television. And I made use of that MTV studio in Times Square for sure, man. That's for sure.
Dude, what a fun, amazing job to obtain or do. I'm curious on how you got into that to begin with, because working for MTV, I mean, look, I grew up, watched MTV when MTV was music videos.
Yeah.
I watched it morph into whatever it is now, which I don't really watch it that much now.
I hope you don't blame me by the end of this episode.
No, and I promise you I won't. I think I just got a little older, and
that's the hardest part about MTV is when you start feeling like the real world kids are too young, the challenge kids are too young, the VJs look like your younger brother and sister, they don't play the music you like anymore. Luckily, there's thousands of other MTV options now. The .com, MTV2, MTV3, MTV Desi. There's so many MTV hits, MTV jams. I got to be there when you know, in the 80s, obviously 81, MTV gets created. I was born in 77. I didn't have cable. I played video games. I'm that guy. So in the early 90s, music videos really start making an impact culturally as a teenager. It's still no interest in MTV. It's rock music, which is, I liked musical theater music. I wanted to work in Times Square running Broadway shows. I ended up in Times Square in the TRL studio for 10 years because I wanted to go to Broadway. I was on my way to Broadway and they got me. Look, the truth of the matter is I'm a data guy. I was good at Microsoft Excel and Microsoft Word. And I went to school in college in 95 to 99 when media went from tape to disc, when photos needed to be scanned in, when the record player became obsolete, the 8-track cassettes started going away. You know, when iTunes came out, I was the guy in college that you'd go to because I had a computer in my room and I would take your discs and put them in and scan them into your iTunes account, you know, hours. I spent helping people organize their content, create their content, none of it mine. How did I get to MTV? I could put things in other people's words and I can put it on paper and in a digital format that survived the share. So I would have an idea, I'd give it to my boss, he would give it to his boss, he would give it to her boss, she would give it to their boss. And that concept stayed. I was able to keep the creative energy, the talent energy, concise and consistent because I could build decks and I knew how to get macros. Silly to say this. I'm the guy who comes into MTV for MTV Spring Break, and I got a Microsoft grid with an Excel grid with talent names that I can just push a button and export call times and talent one sheets. And to be honest, I had learned it in school, so I imagined everyone in the world was also, you know, quite experts at it. What I didn't realize is TV is a slow media to change. And I also could wire 2 VCRs together and I can edit. I can pause and record using, you know, 2 VCRs like I was taught to do in the early 90s, late 80s, like how we used to do it. And even that was something that MTV hadn't done yet. They were paying thousands of dollars to take beta tapes into an edit bay Here I was able to help you. They didn't need a casting executive. They didn't need a casting guru. The last thing they needed was someone creative. They needed someone who can organize the creatives. I can help you maximize your casting notices. I can help you organize the casting calls. I can keep the information concise and at our fingertips so we can move on it quickly. It was that organization that got me into, and to be honest, my drive to want to be surrounded by 5 people with high output. That's like, as a kid, I would get in trouble for the 5 wrong people that I hung out with. So I was always mindful of the people I surrounded myself with. And at first, those people were casting directors. And then those 5 people changed to producers. And then those 5 people changed to executives at a network. And then those 5 people changed to a culmination of executives and celebrity talent. And now suddenly I'm functioning at a level where I don't have to be afraid to step outside of my box because I'm being guided by an expert into theirs. And I so lucky, to be honest, blunt, that I figured out networking and collaborating the way that I did, because my successes are not tied to those shows. Osbournes and Punk'd and Newlyweds, TRL. Those shows are like, they're not even in high definition. They're not even full screen. You know, like if you look at it as media, it looks old, man. It's like old, but millions of people saw that content. And I bring up talking about MTV. I bring that up because I'm like, I was in the room when a lot of that content was made. I wasn't in your room when you probably saw it, but this is a shared experience. Like I'm leading with that. And what a cool return on energy now. 20 years later, after a show called Laguna Beach makes it to air, and I got to be a talent executive on that. People ask me, how do I get a show on Netflix? I cast a show 20 years ago that's now currently, on Netflix. The path to media success is not always linear. And I'm here to help people have long, healthy, sustainable careers. What you said, discovery, visibility, sustainability, that is the key to being not alive, but succeeding as a creative. And I'm here to help you with the millions of dollars I've seen lost at network, the hundreds of thousands of dollars I've seen smaller businesses spend and lose and not recuperate because of bad tactics, not bad strategy, but bad tactics. And if there's anything I can do to help people see success, especially in the beginning part of their career, then sign me up.
Yeah, brother. And I'm fired up. Sign me up because
yeah, all right.
So cool. What you just said there is, all right, this network they can lose a couple million, a couple $100 million, and they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So fascinating today is on a shoestring budget to a degree, you can actually produce hundreds of millions of dollars. It's shifted so much where you don't have to have all this. We have this amazing thing, a cell phone that you can video almost everything. But I do want to talk, Vinny, so much about, I think you said tactically, maybe some errors that are really getting in our way of growing our brand. And I would love to tap into that amazing mind of yours to say, all right, brother, let's help some people grow their business, grow their brand, and stay, sustainable for years to come.
Cool. All right. So do you want me to rip the Band-Aid off?
Rip it, baby. Let's hear it, man. Because I could ask you all sorts of questions, but I know what you're doing. So
I appreciate that. I see one common mistake being made often. A lot of people think to get, and first off, I want to explain the importance of discoverability to feed the funnel, to support the message financially, spiritually, physically, emotionally. Like discovery is an important component to us thriving and succeeding in sustainable careers. And a lot of people think to get more discoverable, you increase your visibility. So if I want to be discovered, I need to be more visible, more visibility, more visibility. I'll tell you what more visibility turns into is, oh man, that guy again. Oh, that show again. Oh, Mariah Carey, that song again. By the way, Mariah Carey is a great example. On Thanksgiving, we're all talking about her. She's back, the Queen of Christmas, she's going to come back. We're so over it. Can you believe how over it we are? We're so over it. Ha, ha, ha. We're over it. 3 weeks later, we're not even talking about it anymore. It doesn't add value to our life to mention that that exists. Why? Because she's so visible. And part of the ego says, I don't want to share this because this might actually make me look less than. I don't want to look foolish, and I don't want to recommend something that is someone already has access to, because that would be redundant. Redundancy is tough, man. Redundancy is a tough thing for us to tackle on. So I said the key word there is shareability. If I can make you more shareable, I can make you more discoverable. You know that parable, if the tree falls in the woods and no one hears it? The answer is share. If you're a smart aleck, you'll say, well, take a photo. And then what? Share it. Oh, I'm going to go tell somebody. And then what? Share that you saw it. And, oh, it's literally, if you're my gardener and I love what you're doing, what's the most valuable thing I can do for you? Pay you? Hire you? No. Share your info. In fact, that's networking. Networking is high level sharing. Networking is one of the highest levels of share as well. But what I want to point out is that we by accident sometimes and by design don't make enough shareable content. We're not easy to share. We work so hard on visibility. I'm going to write a book and I'm going to tell everybody about it. And then you have to buy it to see what's in it. But if you're not sharing the gems, the wisdom, the pieces, the experiences, the feedback, the impact, if you're not sharing these things that allow us to talk about the product, it's not going to help you get to discovered. It'll increase your visibility, but visibility doesn't lead to action. Discoverability leads to action. Visibility without sharing, so visibility without sharing is entertainment and education. And here's what I mean. When I want to entertain you on television or in my podcast, especially if ads are involved, here's the value promise is don't leave. Everything you're watching is the most important thing, but I gotta go to commercials. But when you're done watching commercials, come back to me. Don't leave. I don't want you to share. Just consume is entertainment, right? Education is also, by the way, consumption. So I don't want you to be sharing while you're learning. I want you to be soaking in the energy. So education, edutainment, and entertainment are designed sometimes to not be shared. But then you have these great moments where these educational shows have shareable clips. Or, by the way, late night shows. We look at the Jimmys and Ellen, all the people who've created small segments inside their show that they then lifted outside of the show. They created something, they proved that it worked. By the way, most of that was designed so that when you watch it, you say, oh, I can't wait for that to be on social media so that I can share it with somebody so they can see what I'm talking about. Oh, that SNL skit was so funny. Once that's on Hulu, I'm going to share it. And once I see that on Netflix, I'm going to share it. And they even create it, by the way. They create digital content. Jimmy Fallon playing the kazoo in a small, tiny little closet. It feels really tight and small. That's social media. That's claustrophobic social media, right? Tight, small, close, personal. They created on public media to give it the impression so that it can be shared in digital media. Steve Harvey has a talk show that has 3 podcasts. His podcasts are the talk show, the intro, and the Q&As, all 3 of those broken up into different silos so that those could be shared, not just experienced, right? Podcasting is a great form of media that's easily shared because you don't need to be connected. You don't need to permanently be connected to Wi-Fi to be able to participate in podcasts. You need one Wi-Fi signal to get that audio downloaded to be able to enjoy it on your device. And that's why I'm a big fan of what's happening in podcasting right now. Lots of ways to share, though. That's why celebrities win awards, so that we can share celebrity moments. Also, celebrities win awards because it proves expertise. That's shared. The thank you speech is shared. Share is the most valuable part about award winning. If we don't talk about who won the awards, then you don't know who won the awards. And the only way we do it is because the news shares it on social media, who wore the dress best. Our friends share it in unique different ways. And even credits, by the way, as podcasters now on IMDb, the Internet Movie Database, where you go to see your TV shows and films and directors and executive producers, podcasters now have a space on IMDb where our titles, our roles, our jobs, our credits, our guests, our awards, our production company, all of these become data points on imdb.com, and an Amazon-owned platform that speaks very, very loudly to Google, and Google trusts Amazon and IMDb as a high value data point. One of the ways I can help podcasters stand out immediately is by getting them to upload their credits to IMDb, and that's free, by the way. Everything I talk about, just to throw this out there, everything I talk about, I have documentation for, so I am not throwing you on a wild. Like, I have thought long and hard about this. VPE.tv/hub. Like, I have step-by-step guide to get your podcast on IMDb. It doesn't cost a single penny to get it on there. And the rewards are, it changes your Google image search. It gives you a tag that you're allowed to input, an infinite amount of tags. If you're strong with SEO and you know how to make yourself stand out in Google, in Google search or PubHub search, this is a data point on IMDb that's going to impact your search on all search engines, not just Google. You know, I know there's some hacks and tricks and things like that to show up in Google specifically, since there's a majority of us that, you know, understand the power of Google, but that one day will change. And what I like really trying to do is making sure that we're discoverable at a point in time where someone's looking for us. The best time and place to get discovered is when someone's looking for you. And I really love helping people. It's those shared pieces, right? So I'm not just saying you have a podcast, but here's a podcast with 20 different data points: writer, director, this many episodes, these are the guests, these are the award. All of that is something I can share. I can share the awards. I can share, hey, here are the guests. You look at the guests that have been on this, and that's going to help you grow. The sharing helps you grow. It's the most important, vital piece of it. And then I got to be honest. Most people think of sharing as repackaging or repurposing content. And that's like the kiss of death. That's not sustainable. That you got to be strong and have muscles for repurposing. But you want to pre-purpose, you know, you want to say, hey, you know, when I send this 15-second commercial or this 15-second social media clip to this one account, it always really does well. They're really thankful for it. They ask me when I don't get them one. They ask me where it is. They care about my content. They actually don't just repost it, but they will write stories about it and support it. Find accounts on social media that are built to help support you so that you can be successful because of, you know, of the help, not in spite of the help that social media is able to get you. And again, that pre-purposement is networking. It's understanding how and where your audience is and what deeper way that you'd be able to connect with them. And what it allows you to do is build a relationship with brands and people and accounts that are just outside of your core, that allows you to build those top 5, top 10 maverick accounts, giant, you know, super fans that are going to be the ones that support you. And it's important to have them. Celebrities know who theirs are. Celebrities know who their top 100, their top 10. When I used to work at MTV and Fuse and YouTube, we would do shows where fandom, and then the celebrity was going to meet their fans. And who was it? There was a person that I can talk to say who are the top 100. Let's send them an email. What was that show I did on MTV? Fan. It was called Fan. Oh man, I forget the name of it, but it was a cool show where fans got to meet their celebrities. And at a point in time where MTV provided access to talent. Now, social media, digital media, lots of platforms do the same thing. So it's the constant evolution. But I'm lucky. I fell into character development. It's always been about the who, not the how or the they or the when or the piece of like the part that's larger than who I'm working with. That's cool. You know, stories change. Facts don't. Characters don't, but stories change. You know, I could tell you about David and Goliath, and you can tell me a different version of that story than I know. But that's the proof. You know, I can go on and on and on about a list of characters that we know stronger than the stories.
You did, brother. You said a bunch, which I want to break down a lot of this, which
cool. All right, I got my pen out.
Share part, just that the way you made that really simple.
Oh, thanks.
Yet there's more complexity to it than, all right, here's some stuff, share it. Actually, you go to Vinny's stuff and you're like, oh, I didn't know anything about uploading your credits to IMDb. Now, maybe the podcast, producers do. I don't know. That's my job, is show up and do this. This is what I enjoy. But clearly there's a ton of value in what you said to say, look, man, you think just being visible and get your stuff out there, there's more to it than that. And so I just, that was fascinating. The upload your credits on IMDb. First time I've heard it, I'm like, okay, that's really interesting.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I guess my first question, getting off that for a second, is what led you into podcasting? So you were in MTV, boom, and now at some point you said, you know what, I really like podcasting, or I really see the value in podcasting, or whatever it was that led you to this, because I'm passionate about it. That's clearly why I do this show. Whether I get paid, I don't, I'm going to do it regardless.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, what led you to it, Vinny?
To be honest, in 2005, when a lot of celebrities, radio personalities, people who had access to microphones or recording booths that were pitching me shows or wanted to be on any of our networks or being in the MTV films, I was really tapped into a high level of audio executives that had access to microphones. I was obsessed with the iPod. I was at MTV at a point in time where Napster came and went, and that shook, the industry. And I would tell you, I was the guy inside MTV being like, look, Napster works. We can download it. I got to work with Sean and tell, that story. 2005 also, or maybe it was 2004, the Janet Jackson Nipplegate incident happened. So for the first time in my life, in 2004, 2005, start understanding how the internet could have more viewers than a cable network, because YouTube said the amount of numbers that rewound and saw this, it was the most watched moment. So suddenly there was a data point that did not exist outside. And I realized in 2004, 2005, there was a lot, MTV had grown. I'd helped MTV grow 50 different channels globally, where cable was getting bigger. What I didn't realize was the digital world was getting bigger. I was obsessed with the iPod. MTV wanted me to do a talent search on YouTube for the next big star, and I really felt strongly it should be podcasts. In 2005, I met someone, Fat Man Scoop. He's the guy who sings, "You got a $50 bill, put your hand up. You got a $100 bill," that guy. He and his wife had a podcast called Man and Wife. I loved it. I pitched it to the production company, not to production company. I pitched it to production development at MTV, and they said, "Oh, this is nice, like a man and wife talking about sex, but we don't get it. It's a podcast." And I was like, "Okay, challenge accepted." And I went back to Man and Wife, and I said, "This is what they said. So here's my thought. They don't see it. We just got to get them to see it. I didn't get a note that this was a bad idea. I got a note that they don't see it. That's a big note for me. What I think we should do, since you have access to mics, is record this in your bedroom. Do it in a place where a couple can go to have an intimate conversation. It doesn't feel like a sterile recording booth, because it's coming in too clean. You're too clear, and they can't imagine how this could be a TV show." Then I took that concept to MTV.com New Business, and I said, I'm developing a new podcast. This already exists. They already own it. I'm helping them turn it into a television show. Would you be interested, MTV.com, in financing $100,000 to help build the infrastructure for a podcast back then, which is crazy to think of, the website, the hosting, all of it. They said yes. We closed that deal. In 2006, I go back downstairs to my floor on the 23rd floor of MTV. I knock on the door and I say, "Hey, how about this? Remember that late night sex talk show with the married couple that you didn't get?" We were able to change the creative. So now they record in their bed, and you can imagine like the conversations that happen in their bedroom. We proved that it's a hit because we released those episodes and it helped grow. We were a top 10 podcast easily, quickly on Apple, and the space was smaller then. And I got $100,000 from upstairs that helped us build the infrastructure. So there's two options. One, we could do the TV show. Two, Fuse, MTV, VH1, BET, YouTube. You pick it, but this is going to go someplace else, and we're going to lose that story. It's the last show that I was able to get on MTV. It was an important show for me to be really blunt, because I grew up kind of watching MTV in the mid 90s, where Dr. Drew Pinsky and Adam Carolla were the face of sex ed for me. To be blunt, like two white guys talking about sex in a capacity that I didn't even connect to or relate to. And here was a married Black couple talking about sex. There was a real relationship. She should have an opinion as well. She should have facts as well. In fact, I loved it because she was a social worker. She was a sex ed counselor. She was the expert in that conversation, and he kind of was the celebrity and the sort of like the male voice. I was so sensitive about that then, obviously back in the 90s and early 2000s, about representation and roles and the types of roles that women were given versus men. It was important for me to get that show out there, where it was 50-50, equal balance, and in a couple that we hadn't seen before, authentically talking about sex, not scientifically talking about sex. We did have a doctor in there because for accountability, we needed, for standards. And it took 15 years between then and now to launch my own podcast, mostly because I put everyone before me. And that's the secret. That's the secret sauce. Unfortunately, as a kid, it was a defense mechanism. At MTV, I put people before me, their goals. I made things happen, and I built a ridiculous Rolodex of access to content and talent and people. Now I do the same thing, except when the doors open, I step in too, and I know that I'm worthy of being in the rooms and passing through the doors after I get them open for people who I really truly believe in. Some people might think that I should put myself first. You got to put your oxygen mask on first before you can help the person next to you if the plane's falling. But my plane's not falling. I'm in a flow. I'm in a strong position right now to open some doors. And to be honest, there's some rooms that I don't want to be in if I can't make change. And if I can make change happen as I'm going into that room, heck yeah, that's going to be part of my process. Heck yeah.
Well, I like the fact that what you said, that I am worthy. I did this for
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I acknowledge that.
Conditioned response as a child, right into my professional career. And yet now I've really found my voice, who I am, and I'm proud of that. And I love that. That's really an interesting, the way that all went, where, okay, the show kind of works, and then we're going to go in the bedroom. Now it really works, and it makes sense. Now it's relatable. Because I was going back to the Dr. Drew thing before you even said it. And I was like, yeah, that was kind of the first one. And
Love Ryan
made it funny.
Yep.
But yeah, man, it wasn't like
there was a lot more laughing at some very serious questions that 10 years later we realized wasn't appropriate to laugh at or make a punchline to also, right? And who better, by the way, because I'm at MTV. That's why. Why did I do that? Why did I fight that? My accent's coming out here because I'm getting passionate. When I'm passionate or I'm hungry, you hear the stat now. But why did I do it? Because it was MTV. There was no other network that would have or could have done it other than MTV. And I was in a position to put my foot down, and it was me or them. And ultimately, the next conversation I had, they won. We did Newlyweds with Nick and Jessica Lachey. I did a version of Newlyweds with Khalees and Nas. We 10 episodes, and unfortunately, they canceled our season before we even got to air. And I felt like that was such a prolific relationship and people and artists and everything about it. I was so bummed that it didn't go. And I realized that it was time for me as I'm looking around. They wanted me to do a talent showcase of YouTubers, and I wanted to do a talent showcase of podcasters. And they were like, podcasters are never going to happen. I'm like, but they just got added to the iPhone. Like, I know they're on the iPod and no one cared about the iPod, but when podcasts got on the iPhone, I was like, how could you not think that this is going to change? How could you not understand that? Also, shout out to Adam Curry, one of the original, MTV VJs. He is credited for creating the podcast. I come from a lineage of media of people creating, they created the music video. I felt called to not just do something because I want to leave. I'm not thinking about my what's that word when you your history or your legacy. I wasn't thinking about my legacy back then. I was it's way too small minded to possibly even consume what legacy could look like. But I'm so lucky that my legacy consists of Ashton Kutcher and Jessica Simpson and Diddy and the Osbournes, Nick Cannon still on MTV, TJ Lavin still on MTV. It's cool. If those credits, man, credits, it's funny. Credits, they're like, they build relationships. They prove that you have expertise in a certain area. What an awesome way to leverage, being in the industry. And in this creator economy, this is how I can get bookkeepers and accountants and lawyers and designers and just people who don't have traditional creative positions that would result being in front of actors and in television and media and stuff like that. I can get us included on this platform that Google is pulling information from rapidly, widely. It's very high value information. I know because it's helping me rank on Google now as well.
Well, yeah, again, man, you pack a lot into stuff. One of the things you said earlier.
The next one will be 2 minutes max. I'll do that.
No, I like it because it gives me, I have questions for days, and we're
All
not
right.
most of them. But one of the things you said earlier, and it may or may not morph into the question I'm going to ask about how to grow your authority quickly. But before I ask that, you said something that I've really have been passionate about. In fact, I just read the book Who Not How.
Oh yeah.
Said that earlier, and you're like, I realize it's who not how. And it's such an important idea. And as I'm hearing you talk, it's, even though the fact that Nas didn't get his own show, arguably the best rapper, one of the best rappers of all time, it's kind of crazy to me, but okay. But this idea, who not how, that's a lot of how the world works, whether you like that or you don't. If the tree falling, did anybody actually hear it? Did the tree actually fall? Right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
greatest show in the world. But if nobody knows you exist, are you? So tell me more about the who not how, because clearly that has been a substantial part of your professional growth. And that's how you continue to thrive in this media world, is you clearly are good at sharing, i.e. networking, and people like you. So talk about the who not how, brother, because I think this is a really important point.
Yeah, I read the book too, and in reading the book, I realized how lucky I was to have stumbled on this like the long way. To be blunt, I think in college I adopted this philosophy because I didn't know how. So what I did know was how to create a moment that I can get people's interest, collect information, and stay in touch with them. I knew how to do that. The who's would come. The how for me came first. My database came first. I ended up in casting, which you think might be like a job where you need to know people, but like maybe now you might think that because of celebrity bookings and you see so many familiar faces. My job at MTV was not to book a familiar face. My job was find a brand new star that MTV can say we launched, like get them at the earliest part of their career, to see who they were. It was the who's that I always searched for, even at MTV in my 10 years that I'm there. Whatever project that I was thrown, whether I had to go find a new political correspondent or a music host for heavy metal or hip hop or even top 40. I don't know those people. And the last thing I was going to do is go look for them. What I was going to do was go look for the people who knew them and make sure that those people had access to MTV. And I would send them my mandates. I would say, here are the 5 things we're looking for. I would say, here are 4 ways to pitch us ideas right now. Here is a couple of production companies we're buying shows from. If you want us to purchase a show, you might want to collaborate with them, because I'm seeing everyone likes to buy shows from this production company. So collaborate with them, get in any way you can. I would invite them to the VMAs. I would invite them down to Total Request Live on big days when big artists were there, because we would go down to Network. In the late 90s, we had these little 2-way pagers. We'd beam each other our information. Proximity mattered. Being in the room mattered. I saw that firsthand. So for me, it really was about, and I use that TRL. I think about this now. I was so lucky to have access to TRL, that studio. And because I worked in talent, I leveraged that. So if I was auditioning, one of my episodes of my podcast, Christina Milian turned to me and she says, "You remember when you introduced me to Janet Jackson?" I was like, "Wait, no, you're gonna have to tell me this story. What? What did I do?" And she's like, "Yeah, I was in your office, and then we got the email, and it said Janet Jackson was downstairs, and then they said the studio was closed, only executives, blah blah blah." And I was like, "Let's go." They just said I'm allowed to go, so like that's like an invitation to me. So I'll bring you down and make that introduction. Did I get anything out of it? This artist has kept that story in mind her entire life. I didn't even know I had that connect with her, let alone the amount of times she's already been on my podcast. And this is a woman who wrote Justin Bieber's first single, Jennifer Lopez's first single. Like, this is a cool woman to have access to as a creative with high output. And I'm the guy that introduced her to Janet Jackson, and I don't even remember it, that I should have that much access. But that's how liberal I was in empowering the people that I trusted to bring people into me. So I would call the programming director over at Hot 97 and I would say, "We're looking for a new host for our urban hour. Do you have anybody who'd be able to come in? I need hip hop and rap. Do you have someone who'd be able to come on in, come meet everybody. It's an open door. If we can get them on MTV, then it makes us look even better. And we can start working together." And I use that even now, by the way. Well, I can save this, but I can bridge it because you mentioned about growing authority quickly. One of the ways I love helping people grow authority quickly is by collaborating with an expert in another genre. If you approach those experts directly, they will know exactly what you are going after, and it will not work out well for you. No one wants to feel like the token, the only example, or the only way that you might find success. But what I do is I'll put out a report or energy where that person's following finds me, and that person's following takes me in on their journey. And ultimately, I get introduced to a leader of a smaller community because their community believes in what I'm doing. It's the same exact way I cast on MTV. Instead of looking for who I was looking for, I would empower the people, and that's why I ended up running a casting company, and I turned my agency into casting from 2007 to 2015. Because I realized I was good at helping people find people, and Facebook hadn't given people access to each other the way that it does now. But then once Facebook and Instagram leveled the playing field for being connected to stars and celebrities and experts, of course I had to bow out and make sure that new people, new blood, new eyeballs that had not been in the room previously can be in the room now. I still get lots of phone calls, and I'm happy to recommend casting to people that are brand new to the industry. There's nothing more rewarding. And I'm passionate about helping businesses and individuals create copy and own it and not sell it. Like TV execs, TVs, they're going to come try to buy your content because it's good and it reaches millions of people. And if I can do anything to help you grow authority, or by the way, another way to grow authority early, win awards. You'd be amazed at how many awards you qualify for. If you have a newsletter, a website, if you have an ad campaign, not even run it, but if you have a campaign, if you're good at tech stacking, if you're good at figuring out how to make, two websites solve a problem, unique problem for you. If you're a guest on a podcast, let alone if you're a host of a podcast, if you're a musician, there's so many awards that are out there. And again, it's not about winning the awards. It's not about the size of the awards that matter. It's how you use it. It's about the press release, the energy, the collaborations that happen next, turning it into data points. These are ways that you can instantly grow authority, market voice, like your share of market voice is growing because you're seen as an expert. It's an awesome way to network. It's an awesome way to stake a flag in your expertise and say, like, I've been here. I own this. I earned this title. It is part of who I am, and now I am moving on. So credits and awards. What a powerful way to network. Think about this as a podcast. We have this podcast episode could potentially win best podcast episode. That would be a really cool link between you and I for the rest of my life. By the way, that's how you change the alchemy of everything that I create, and that's That's the power of people, and that's why I'm giving us the power.
Love it,
I'm making us be more powerful this way.
I mean, when you're talking, I just Giver's Gain just kept going in my head. Giver's Gain, because you continue, it's your theme is that you give first, and without even the gal you talked about introducing to Janet Jackson.
Oh yeah, Christina, yeah.
But you didn't expect anything
No.
and yet here this has come about, and clearly it's impacted her life, and that's amazing. I am gonna ask you because I want to give you open forum, but I got to keep it to like 2 or 3 minutes.
Oh yeah, okay, all right, I'll be tight.
Anything that I didn't ask you, I didn't know enough to say, Vinny, I want you to share whatever you want to take it, brother. Just open forum, because you gave us so much. If I'm listening as a podcast host, which I am listening, I'm like writing this stuff down feverishly.
Yeah, cool.
I'm gonna re-listen to it. But I do want you to have the chance just to anything what's on your heart, brother, that you want to share with the audience.
Yeah, I feel called to say create with confidence, not with audience. I've never even said that before out loud, and I really like the way that sounds. I'm gonna write that down, because I'm writing that down. Create with confidence, not audience. So many of us, I'm guilty. I worked at TV networks. I had to build something based on the audience, right? That's already connected, right? Television is just all about, television is not about growth. Television is about retention. It's not about how many eyeballs can I get on a network. It's how many can I keep on a network. What we're doing in podcasting and personal IP, narrowcasting turned broadcasting, this is where we really can be creating in confidence. And I can list more platforms now this year that are new than I can podcasts. I have no doubt in mind that the ideal platform for my ideal project hasn't been created yet. And I'm okay with that. And I'm the guy in my friend group that they're like, don't let Vinny take the picture. You'll never see it. He takes pictures and they stay in his phone. And I'm like, that's for me. That's the type of creative I am. But when I find an opportunity to open those up, like on TikTok right now, I have thousands of hours of me backstage at QVC, MTV, VMA, like photo shoots, all the things. I've just been documenting it just because it felt right to do. And I like being a little creative, and I never put it out there. But now I can on TikTok and show the world what I did then, and put it in context that I own this content. So much of my success in the early part of my career was dependent on television timing being right, there being a window of opportunity to add something to the programming grid for people to actually connect with it. You know, a lot has to go right there for success to come and play. It's a very non-linear path, media and content. Create in confidence, create the story that you're capable of making, let alone the one that needs to be made. That's how I felt at MTV with Man and Wife. I was capable of making a show that I felt like needed to be made. And the Nas thing burns, but also it was his first executive producer credit, and he's had dozens more afterwards. That shit's cool. I was his first failure, man. The rest have all been successes. You learned from that. I know for a fact you learned from those failures. So create in confidence, and not an audience. The audience will change. Even this episode, in podcasting, and please go out and be a podcast guest. No one owns podcasting. Podcasters are people. Yeah, there are businesses, and you can go that route. But podcasting, I'm not worried about messing up and saying something wrong, because I trust the host of this podcast, Jam. Like, I'm not going to mess up and feel like, look, to be honest, sometimes nerves kick in. Sometimes the wrong sequence of words come out, and you find yourself in because you want to be making positive impact. So you walk the line, because you have to walk the line to blur the boundaries and expand them. And here's the last thing I'll say about the boundaries, because there's a lot of weird mishigash about how big this podcast industry is. Says who? TV, why? You afraid? Radio says it, why? You afraid? Film, how many books? How many poems? How many songs? How many cat names, dog names? Like, what are you kidding me? You're going to tell me there's too many podcasts out there and everyone's got a podcast? I'm sorry. I tend to disagree on that. And also, God bless them for having podcasts and owning their voice and the shadow and the light that their likeness creates. The podcast industry isn't getting any bigger than us. It's us that's getting bigger. It's our episodes, our series. It's this minute by minute, every single minute this goes on longer. That's what's increasing our industry. So jump in, create in confidence, and have fun. How about that? Have fun. If it's not fun to make, it's not going to be fun to watch. I know that the hard way. Trust me. Celebrities don't fix it. throwing a face or a name on there, don't fix it. So have fun creating it. Sorry, that was not 2 minutes.
I love it. I tried. I wrote down several iterations of it, but I'm going to go with create in confidence, not with audience, or create with confidence, not in audience. I don't know. It's somewhere in there.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful. I love that. Vinnie, you mentioned earlier VPE.TV, I think it was, but just where is the best way for our listeners to connect with you online? Clearly, I agree with you, man. The podcast industry is, you know how many times I meet people that don't listen to podcasts today?
Mm-hmm.
It's the growth is exponential. It's coming. And I love the work you're doing. So where's the best place for our audience to connect with you online?
Oh, thanks. LinkedIn, to be honest. I hang out on LinkedIn. You don't need to reach out to me when it's time to figure out your contract or next step. Like I make time to be available to support the conversations that I have because I spend so much time on podcasting. I have to have public hours on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great place to reach with me. VPE.TV is my website, vpe.tv/hub, HUB. That's my creator hub, where if you're looking for the 99 awards worthy of winning, I actually did a deep dive on about 60 new podcast platforms since 2022 that have been created. So if you came out with a podcast in the last 3 years, there's a bunch of new platforms that in directories you might want to be on that you might not be on yet, because most podcasters don't update directories as much as we do our episodes. So I see a big smile on that one. I feel it. I'm guilty too. And by the way, that was my thing with me awards. I'm an Emmy Award-winning Media Advisor because I won an Emmy Award last year when I addressed the fact that I hadn't even submitted myself to qualify for an Emmy Award. So when I said, how come I don't have an Emmy Award like the rest of my friends? And the answer was, because you've never been nominated, because you've never submitted yourself for one. That was a hard pill to swallow. That's what called me to go do this deep dive on awards and make sure people understand what is out there. And Telly's, W3 awards, communicator awards, they all matter. They all matter. It's how you use them. It's the community that they're building. And I'm excited to see people out there. By the way, I have a podcast.com/interview. If anyone is looking for a podcast boost, and I do these featured podcaster articles on my website, I have a podcast.com. And I'm just here to build a bigger stage for us, for the independent voices to be successful, whether you're a personal brand, a founder-led business, a corporate brand with a couple of CMOs or C-suites that are the face of it. I'm here to help you be successful.
Brother, that's so much value in 45 minutes. It's crazy. I appreciate you, man. You know, we had technical issues. People don't know that for the first 2 episodes, like shit happened. We made it happen, brother. And I'm so glad we did. I appreciate you.
Anything worth having is worth waiting for. This has been awesome. Thank you for this.
Thank you. Well, guys, look, he said the word. I'm just going to say it again. Share, get it out. Everyone needs to have a Vinnie in their life. I'm telling you, that is awesome. Share it with someone you know. And remember, until next time, your mindset matters. I appreciate you guys. We'll talk soon. Thank you so much for listening. If this content is delivering value to you, please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review us. That helps us build this community, and that is what we are all about. Building this community as big as we can, helping as many people as we can, and deliver as much value as possible. Be sure to head over to letsgowinpodcast.com for information on my coaching courses, and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Let's Go Win 365. Let's go win and transcend in life.
This is the Let's Go Win podcast with your host, J.M. Ryerson.